Covering this all for us. A very good afternoon to you, Samkele. Very important points being put forward there by the Deputy Chief Justice, saying that, look, we are going to finish this. We have a will and determination to wrap up the commission in the time that is stipulated. Talk to us about some of the other issues that are of importance that the Deputy Chief Justice had to kind of refer to this afternoon in this briefing.
Well, Flo, a very interesting briefing by the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who chairs the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. What was very stern and coming out of that particular briefing is that the Commission of Inquiry will be starting its work by the end of June this month, which is some of the predictions that the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has given at this press briefing, and that's saying that they will be sifting through the witnesses that have been presented, or the list of witnesses that have been presented to the Commission that will be coming to give testimony of their version of events of what transpired during the era of alleged state capture in the country. What was also rather interesting in that briefing was that not everything that is within the testimonies that will be written by the various personnel or individuals coming to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry will be examined and will be cross-examined there. That key points will be examined instead, and the Deputy Chief Justice saying that he will be spending more time with the team and trying to put them and point them in the right direction on which points to cross-examine and to sift through when these witnesses give their testimony at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry when it resumes its work by the end of June this month. In the last week, I'm going to bring in SABC News political editor Mzandile Mbeche on some of the key points the Deputy Chief Justice raised in that particular briefing, starting with the utmost important one of when the first citizen of the Republic will actually be appearing. He's meant to appear in July this month, but that's no longer happening. How do you see this one playing out, Mr. Mbeche?
Well, I think what we've been saying, the buzzword, Samkele, is that given that COVID is with us, so we'll now engage in a new normal. So basically a new normal means doing things differently. And even when it relates to the issue of the commission, so it's no longer going to be what we are used to. And when it comes to the president, remember, everyone is looking forward to President Ramaphosa appearing before the commission. I think one of the key questions that the judge has always been asking, particularly if he wants to know why certain things were not stopped or why certain voices were not raised, he's always asked the question, where was the NEC? Where was the leadership? So remember, the president has been part of the leadership as the state capture was happening. So basically, the reason why it's important to hear the voice of the current president are those questions that the judge has always wanted to know. You would remember the kind of questions he posed on the former member of the NEC, or on the member of the NEC, Ngwako Ramatlod. He would say, so why, if certain things were done in a particular way, some people would not say? So it would be very interesting. I mean, he was the deputy president for the past 5 years, and of course, he's always been part of the NEC. So it would be very interesting to hear the president later on.
Another critical point was raised on the issue of the former president. His legal team did file their papers and affidavits of the former president's appearance at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. The Deputy Chief Justice saying that the legal team of the commission has filed their responding affidavits to the court. How do you see this one playing out of the former president, particularly when you look at the era of COVID-19 with the new regulations in place? They've been given the Deputy Chief Justice saying that there will be movement between provinces of those who will be giving testimony within this regard in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. How do you see this one playing out?
I think the easier thing for the Deputy Chief Justice in regard to those questions that were sent to former president is that the questions are there. And remember, those questions, Samkele, they're quite specific. There were people who went to the commission and mentioned certain things insofar as the role of the former president is involved. So it will be interesting to see. I think that it's about 80 questions. So it should be easier, really, for the legal team of the former president to be able to answer each and every one of those. And if then the Chief Justice, rather the Deputy Chief Justice, feels there needs to be a bit of interrogation, so it will be easier because they would have seen the nature of the responses that would have been given. So I think that aspect for me will be quite easy. So as long as the legal team of the former president is ready to get him back to the commission, so it should proceed quite smoothly.
On the issue of specifics, the Deputy Chief Justice says this time around, the affidavits that will be disposed by every individual will be coming to give their version of events at the State Commission of Inquiry. Not the entire affidavit will be cross-examined, only specific points which he will help the Commission's legal team that he would want them to focus on and that he would want more clarity on. How do you see this playing out? Would this not be omitting certain information from the public that they would want to know when it comes to the issues of state capture?
I think the Commission is faced with a very difficult situation. There's no time. Already they've been given extension. In fact, when this Commission started, it had to complete its work in 6 months. But because of the enormity of the work, the judge went to court and then they got an extension of 2 years. Even that 2 years was not enough. That's why the judge again sought another extension. So you can't extend forever. So at some point, this commission must end. But in the minds of the people as well is to see what sort of action is taken, because if there are indeed people who did wrong things, so you need to see the consequences. And I think the judge would not then entertain some of the evidence that is really not material towards achieving certain objectives insofar as holding certain individuals accountable. I think that's why he will make sure that the people who are really called are people whose evidence will really be material towards the accounting of those that have been pointed finger at. So it will be very interesting to see who he chooses and then how that information is gleaned through and what is it that is being omitted. But the fact of the matter is that there is no time, and the Deputy Chief Justice is racing against time. And not only that, the public needs to see and also know what is it that is going to happen if there are indeed people who are found to have done wrong things.
The Deputy Chief Justice also says that earlier this morning he had a discussion with President Cyril Ramaphosa. Last week he also had a discussion with the President. The President is very eager to see this commission concluding its work and that to see the commission also resuming its work. What do you make of the Deputy Chief Justice having so much confidence in the executive that is led by President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamula?
For any commission to succeed, you need the full support because they still need resources. And if you have the full confidence of the executive, of the president, so it means the Deputy Chief Justice will be able to have to do the work in a manner that will be able to be satisfying to everyone. But if, let's say, there was no support, and then he needed resources, he would not be able to do the thorough work. So what this basically means is that he's been afforded an opportunity to do the work. But for me now, Samkele, so what are those that are supposed to action certain things given what is coming out of the commission? So we haven't seen anything as yet. So given that there's already certain evidence, and we've seen that the NPA has been strengthening in the past few days, so will now be some sort of movement towards holding certain individuals to account.
Let's speak on the logistics of the commission itself now. The Deputy Chief Justice is saying that he's got some concerns when it comes to the commission resuming its work at level 3 of the lockdown. At level 4, he thought they would be able to resume their work, but they couldn't. At level 5, he knew that they couldn't resume their work. He himself had issues of traveling between Durban and Gauteng. What are some of the logistical nightmares that this commission may face if they were to resume its work by the end of June?
If the commission resumes its work and we are still on level 3, remember, interprovincial travel is still not permitted, obviously, unless certain circumstances. So that will still pose some difficulties. So it will be better, let's say, obviously we don't know between now and end of June whether we'll still be on level 3. But I think the President has indicated, in the previous interviews that we've had, that we are not permanently stuck on this level. So the country will be moving towards level 2. So I suspect that perhaps by the time the Commission resumes at the end of June, the country may have moved towards level 2. So which means movement between provinces in terms of the risk-adjusted strategy that we have, so will be permitted. So those investigators who need to go around, who need to go and see certain witnesses, should be able to do that. And of course, the domestic travel should be then allowed even more. Remember, now it's specifically for business, and the areas like hotels so will start to open up. So if the commission resumes under level 3, there will still be difficulties in terms of logistics, but I suspect by the time we go to the commission, we may have moved to level 2.
On the issue of logistics, Mr. Mbecha, there's an issue of the witnesses that will be coming to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry and those who will have deposited affidavits that need to be cross-examined. There's an issue of the Chief Justice says he's got concerned about of their travel. Will they be permitted to have inter-provincial travel as opposed to those who will have permits for business purposes or for work purposes that they may be able to travel? So these are some of the concerns that he has. How do you see the Commission navigating through this one if we don't go to level 2?
It will be very difficult because remember, every time you travel on level 3, you must seek permit, and that's a process on its own. So yes, the Commission can be able to do some limited work, but for it to be able to operate at full capacity, level 3 will be quite prohibiting for the Commission. So that's why, I mean, my own guess, given what the President has been communicating in the past, is that at some point, and they also want to open up the economy, at some point we need to go to level 2, and then level 2 would really allow the Commission to operate quite optimally. I mean, under level 3, the operations will be very, very limited. Yes, they will be able to do one or two things, but many things would still not be able to be performed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbecha. That was Zandile Mbecha, the political editor here at the SABC. So there, South Africans, you have it. The State Capture Commission of Inquiry may be resuming its work by the end of June this month, in the words of Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. But what was rather interesting was that the Deputy Chief Justice was also speaking and saying that throughout this period of the lockdown that has been enforced by the government of the day, the Commission has been doing work behind the scenes, and he himself, the Deputy Chief Justice, has been working from home in Durban, and saying that even with those South Africans and with those legal team that is assisting in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, they will, if they can work from home, they will be permitted to work from home, but he still needs to seek some clarity from the government, particularly on level 3, on how some of the investigators that are used by the State Capture Commission of Inquiry will be able to move interprovincially to seek some of the evidence that this commission so dearly needs in unraveling the issues of the alleged, I use the word carefully, alleged, of state capture and corruption in the country.
Conversation there about really the logistics now that the Commission is now having to be faced with since coronavirus and, of course, the lockdown regulations and social distancing and so forth. Thank you very much to Samkele Maseko and Zondo Commission.